What I will be making today is Fisherman's Chowder. Basically, we have ingredients which include chicken broth, fat-free cream cheese, carrots, yellow potatoes, onions, bell peppers, and bacon, along with fish, 6 ounces of fish, white fish. Before we get the veggies together, I'm frying some bacon, and basically want to get that, if it's a little dark, that's fine, because it's going to cook down as seasoning in the soup. So basically we just have some bacon going, and we want this to be very crunchy because it's going to go in the food processor to go as flavoring in our soup. So there we have our bacon, which is cooking. I have it cooking a little high because, like I say, I do want it to be very crunchy. Just a little burned in some spots, that'll be fine. It'll just add more flavor. Okay. Now here, what I'm getting ready to do is put some baby carrots, about 6 to 7 baby carrots will go in the food processor. That's equivalent to about 1 large carrot. So we'll go ahead and get that going. And this is a Ninja food processor. It saves a lot of time. And here we go. Simple as that. So we have our carrots ready to go in the soup. And get our excess carrots out there. Okay. And next we'll wait for the bacon to get done, and then we're going to be sauteing our carrots and bell pepper and onions in the bacon grease, and that'll add seasoning to it. In the meantime, we'll go ahead and weigh out about 6 ounces of fish. I chose to use whiting as a fish of choice. Turn on our scale there. About 6 to 7 ounces. So there, that's about 5.5. Probably go a little bit more than 7 ounces. Okay, that's about 10.5, but since I want a little more protein, I'll go ahead and leave that in there. So that'll give us 10.5 ounces of fish, and I will be taking the skin off of that, be filleting that here in a second. Now here, what I will be doing is filleting the whiting. I don't like the skin on there, and this will hopefully fillet okay. It's still somewhat frozen, which makes it a little bit easier to fillet actually. I'll get that excess skin off of there, which is grease, as you can see. Put that over there. That one actually didn't have skin all the way on the bottom. This one here, yeah, this one here has more skin all the way across, looks like. Okay, we'll leave a little bit on there because the fish skin actually has a lot of omega-3 oils are in the skin of the fish, so we'll leave a little bit on each of these. It also offers a bit of a grease taste somewhat, and that's what I'm trying to stay away from. So here we have a little bit of gray there of the skin, and then a nice piece there. So that'll be our fish. Let's see if it changed the weight any. I doubt it, but we'll just make sure. Okay, actually without that skin on there, it went down to 9.2 ounces of fish protein. So that suffice. So we also getting ready to put our bacon, which is done, into the food processor. We'll go ahead and just put the bacon in there like that. It's still pretty hot, so I'm not gonna touch that. I don't like being burned. It's simple as that. I'll cut that down a little bit more. Okay. And now we have nice bacon, crumbled bacon there. Fresh crumbled bacon. Freshly cooked, nice and warm. That'll be good flavoring for the chowder. And next what we'll be doing is sauteing our veggies in the bacon grease. Okay, and while our grease should be warm enough to put our veggies in, we're only going to put the onions, bell pepper mixture in there, and the carrots only. The potatoes don't go in there. And this is usually an 8-serving dish. However, I'm only cooking 4 servings. And what it calls for basically are 3 slices of bacon. You can use turkey bacon if you want. A half of onion. I didn't use that much in this because I don't want the oniony taste too much. A large carrot, if you have the baby carrots, that's about 6 or 7. If you need shredded carrots, you'll have to kind of Google that if you use shredded carrots. Half a potato if it's large, or I use 2 very small Yukon Gold potatoes. There also calls for a half of Philadelphia cream cheese. It calls for a half of the package, which would be 4 ounces, 1 cup of milk, and then 6 ounces of cod fillets or other white fish. So those are the ingredients you need for 4. If you want to make a 8-serving pot, you can double that. Okay, so while our veggies are cooking down a little bit, just kind of mix those up a little bit better. Okay, let those sit there. We'll go back over and cut up our fish, and I'll show you how that's supposed to be done. Okay, again, like I say, I chose to use whiting fish, and it's supposed to be cut in about 2-inch squares. So I just basically sliced mine across, and I'll just cut it. Mine will be a little bit smaller than that because it's a smaller pot. So I'm going to do mine in about 3/4 of an inch to 1 inch pieces. Got that good old granite cutting board. We don't have to worry about any scratches or anything. Okay, so there's our fish. Nice big pieces there. That'll be nice, meaty, and it'll break down, I'm sure, a little bit in the cooking process. And I'm going to be cooking this in a slow cooker, a small slow cooker. Okay, so we have our fish. Got a few pieces there with the skin on it, a few that don't have the skin on there. So you'll get a little bit of a taste of fish, but not too fishy. Okay, during this time what we'll do is add in our potatoes and our chicken broth. It also calls for celery, I failed to mention. If you don't have celery, you can use celery seed, which is what I will be using. And these are our potatoes. We'll go ahead and just put those in. And our other veggies that we were cooking. Add those in, our carrots and onions, and got a little bell pepper in there. I added bell pepper because I like bell pepper in most foods. I could have probably put a little garlic in there, but I stayed away from that by it being fish. Fish and garlics, I don't know, may not mix sometimes better, maybe if it was with chicken. Okay, so as far as the broth, we have 1 cup. You can use a low-fat chicken broth or regular chicken broth. Put that in there. And we'll bring this to a low boil for about 10 to 12 minutes. Come back and check on that. And then we'll get ready for our other ingredients. This cast iron skillet here, basically I'm going to prepare it in here and I'll be transferring it to the slow cooker, which I know I mentioned earlier. I'll be letting this cook in a slow cooker. I'm going to also add some celery seed to this. And you can just kind of estimate. Celery is really good in soups and chowders, so you can just kind of estimate how much you want to use. Okay, so I'll let that go ahead and come up to a low boil. Excuse me. And then we'll be back to check on it and add our other ingredients. While that's coming to a boil, keep in mind that if you do want to add additional seasonings to this, you can. But the bacon will add a great deal of salt, so if anything, we may want to add a little pepper, which is what I'm going to do now. And this is a good time to add it, is during this boiling process here. That way it kind of gets in with the veggies. The fish will partake in that once it's mixed in along with the bacon. And make sure you keep your fish separated from your bacon to avoid cross-contamination. And the fish does not have to be cooked. However, it is raw. It doesn't have to be pre-cooked when you make this dish, which is quite different. But I guess since it's a soup type of deal, it will cook and it won't cross-contaminate in the cooking process due to the excessive levels of heat. Okay, that's coming to a nice boil. You don't want it too high, so you don't want to lose your broth in there. And then also keep in mind that once this is done, as I mentioned, about 10 to 12 minutes. We're going to do it maybe for about 10 minutes, because I don't want my potatoes to get too soft. The yellow potatoes do allow a nice firm potatoey taste, especially when cooked in soups, unlike the regular russet potato. And the next steps, we're going to be adding cream cheese into this here, and until it melts down, and then we'll add our milk, fish, and bacon, and then we'll transfer it to our slow cooker over here. So see you back in a minute. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and add our cream cheese to this. And this is about a 4-ounce deal of cream cheese. Go ahead and get my hot water running, and I'm just going to break this up personally to put it in there. It'll melt down a little easier. Make sure you wash your hands good after this so you don't contaminate, cross-contaminate, that is, when you get your fish, and you want to have clean hands when you're cooking. And we're going to put this in there. And there we go. Oh, that water is hot. Okay. Alright, and then this usually takes about 2 to 3 minutes. Let that kind of boil slow. I brought it down to a slower boil. And actually, you don't have to put this dish in a slow cooker, but I am going to, because I'm not letting my potatoes get all the way done in this here process here. I'm not going to let the potatoes get too soft. You can kind of just test them. See, I can still put the knife in there somewhat easily, but it is a little harder as you get toward the middle, and that's how I want mine, because I like things cooked in a slow cooker. This is a meal here for myself. Baby doesn't eat this, so it's a 4-serving deal, which I'll eat off of for a few days. Okay, as you can see, our cream cheese is breaking down pretty good and acting simultaneously with the other ingredients as a thickener. I don't care for runny soup unless it's maybe some chicken noodle in a can. I may, but I prefer to make my own chicken noodle, like a lot of other foods. I prefer to make them myself. That way I can make them to my liking. Okay, that's breaking down pretty good there. As you can see, it's a nice lot thicker than just with the broth. Okay, cast iron skillets, I love them. You can bake in them, fry in them, make soup in them, as we're doing now. Like I say, this is a stovetop recipe that I'm going off of, but I'm modifying it by using the slow cooker. And I'm going to turn this down a little bit because I'm going to add my fish in there, and I don't want it to cook down too quickly. Once the fish does cook, you'll notice it start to flake. That's why the pieces, they can't be too small, otherwise you'll have the fish in there, but you won't have your chunks in there if it breaks down too much. Okay. Alright. Go ahead and get our... We'll be adding now our milk. And this is just 1 cup of milk. We'll also be adding our bacon at this time. And these ingredients, if you're doing it stovetop, will cook about 5 minutes, it says, but a lot of this is trial and error. You kind of cook it to your liking. And then here we have our fish that we're going to put in there. Okay, there we go. And I'm really hoping that fish does break down a little better because it's not as many pieces as I anticipated. I probably could have put another 2-3 ounces of fish in there, but that's okay. I'm already getting more than the recommended serving of protein in there, so which is fine. Protein, when you intake too much of it, it basically can't hurt you. It just doesn't absorb once it gets to a certain level in your system. Okay. So we'll go ahead and turn this back up again and bring it to a little slower boil, and then we'll transfer it to our slow cooker and come back and check it on it later. I'm going to put it in the slow cooker since this cooks for about it's about a 15-minute cooking process in all on top of the stove, including the veggies, cooking the bacon. It's about a 15-20 minute stovetop process. I'll leave it in the slow cooker about 30 minutes and we'll come back and check it out. See how it is. Okay, we're back to check on this, and it's, as you can see, it's got a nice simmer going on. And I'm going to add another little twist to this by putting in some extra sharp cheddar. I'm a big cheese fan, as you know. And I'm going to add about 1 ounce of cheese to this. That'll just go in for flavoring and as a little thickener also. Yellow extra sharp cheddar. Okay. And keep in mind with the added cheese to that, the dish is only about 180 calories per cup. 2 cup serving is what I generally will eat of this at one time. About 360 calories. Along with about 7 to 10 Ritz crackers, about 485 calories, and that's a nice dinner, and you're getting your vegetables, 16 grams of protein per serving, and then it also has the carbs, little small amount of sugar, and then I believe it was 17 grams of fat, which is a little high, but okay. Depends on what you're looking at when you eat, what you're watching. I'm watching calories specifically right at this point in time. Okay, So that we have, and let's check to see how how much these potatoes are done. Okay, that's a piece of fish there. As you can see, it's at the flake point. Fish is done. It's another piece of fish. Okay, our potatoes. Okay, potatoes are just right. I actually don't believe I'm going to put this in the slow cooker, since it's come out like this and the consistency is just how I like it. I'm just going to leave it in this cast iron skillet here, and I'm just going to put it on low and let it sit there for about another 15 minutes because I don't want my fish to disintegrate in with the soup base. I don't want that to happen, so we're going to not use the slow cooker after all. One less thing to have to clean up, I say. And there's another big piece of our fish there with the skin on there, as you can see, still intact, which is good. Okay, so we'll come back and get a little scoop of this and see how it tastes here shortly. Keep in mind that if you're not a particular type of fish person, I don't care for salmon a whole lot. I will eat it in certain dishes. When you make a dish that calls for fish, a lot of times if it's a white fish in particular, you can get pollock, cod, whiting, orange roughy, swai, even tilapia. Any type of fish will a lot of times substitute, unless you go in to your salmons, tuna, fish like that sometimes can put off a totally different taste per se, especially in a dish like this. So you want to really look at a recipe, see if it has any type of substitutions you can use. If not, just simply Google it. A lot of times you can find out if you can use a particular type of ingredient for another one, but particularly with your fishes, you don't want to use the wrong type because it's one that you like in a certain type of a dish, because the taste will not set very well with you. Okay, here's our finished product. I put a little parsley on top of it to add a little color, and I'm about to taste it here in a minute and let you know how it tastes. Okay, we'll see how it tastes. Whoa, that is very, very hearty there. It's a nice chunk of potato. Nice piece of fish. Okay, get a little bit of both in there. Very good. You can taste all the ingredients in it. It's a really good thing about it. I have to have my Ritz crackers with my soup. Even got the ones with the little football on them. Yeah, that's really good. You can taste the bacon in there, the onions, carrots, the sharp cheddar. Very good meal. When I measured that out, it actually made about 6.5 cups, which would cut down on your calories. So it'd be more like, instead of 180 calories per serving, I think I mentioned somewhere in that ballpark, it'd probably be closer to about 150 to 165 per cup, which is pretty good. Like I say, you can always add more fish if you want. Whiting, it doesn't have much fat. The skins on the fish, if you want to leave those on, fine. They're full of omega-3 oils, which are good for you. So Fisherman's Chowder. Very simple recipe, very hearty, and very filling. Check it out.